Can you hear that music in the background or no?
Yeah. What, we got a theme song now?
Yeah. Yes, for everybody that thinks we have a theme song, that is obviously kids are home now and no school, so that is the Simpsons movie theme song. That is
Oh.
the book club theme song, evidently. Let me turn that down. Sorry.
No, you're fine. But...
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
As much as the Simpsons movie theme song would work well for us, we'd probably have to pay some sort of royalty rights.
Yeah. We got watching The Simpsons. My son and I, my oldest son and I, started watching the Simpsons from episode 1 from Disney Plus, and I like it because it brings it back to my childhood. I remember watching that every Sunday night. It was the show to watch.
I know we got the Disney Plus too, and the kids have gotten into it, and I'm like, man, and I'm not the kind of parent that I don't hound over what they watch necessarily, right? But like I look back, like, all right, like Dumb and Dumber was on the other day, and I'm like, yeah, let's watch it. And then I'm like, oh, wow, like I watched a lot of stuff that nobody ever asked a question about. Like, I was like, all right, well, I'm not sure how many of his friends' parents I can tell I let my kids watch this, but here we go.
I had mine watching Beavis and Butthead, so don't feel bad.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Yes. Oh,
yeah, it was. He saw something on one of his. It was some kind of modern day YouTuber was giving a throwback to Beavis and Butthead, and I was like, oh, you should really actually see what Beavis and Butthead are all about. And of course, it was the Beavis, the Great Cornholio episode that was the one that they wanted to watch. And I used to just, I remember the first time I saw that, I was on the floor laughing so hard. And so he watched it, and it's just one of those marginal programs you probably shouldn't let your kids watch, but it was like, come on. I mean, that's Americana right there. I mean, that's what it is. It's what it's all about, man. I grew up watching that show religiously.
It's enrichment to what our childhood was, you know? I mean, it's that for us to give to our children is a lot like when your grandpa and grandma would say that they walked uphill both ways to school, right? Let's be honest. Here is what we did. We watched Beavis and Butthead.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, all right. Well, we're live. I see we got some people coming on, so if you've been engaged with our Beavis and Butthead and the Simpsons conversation, thank you. But another week. Obviously, before we went live, Aaron and I were talking about the excitement, chaos, whatever we want to call it, is going on in the world. I don't know. It's like one of those things where I get that we've been quarantined and social distance, and I'm gonna need a vacation from all of this. Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's so weird that everybody just needs to take a deep breath, like meditate. I don't know, but there's a lot of pent up stuff going on.
Yeah, I watched. It was just a random guy. I don't even know who he was, but he was on a Facebook Live just ranting about how, you know, us being quarantined for so long is really just amplified this whole entire situation because we've just been so pent up, and all of a sudden we got a reason to go out and start apparently burn buildings and destroy, you know, local small businesses and whatnot, you know, or even large like Targets and stuff. But it's just like, you know, it's a scary thing to be a part of. Like I don't understand it at all. No. It's shameful. You know, I mean, you got to think outside the box. I mean, think of these small businesses. You know, I was just absolutely heartbroken to see some of those businesses on State Street on Sunday having to come back and pick up those pieces. Those same businesses, you know, a month ago and even a day ago, were struggling because of this COVID-19 stuff. They were struggling to get sales. You're struggling to get customers. They couldn't have customers come in. Now all of a sudden, some jackasses come in and bust their windows down and loot their buildings. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What are you trying to do there? Like,
well,
it's terrible.
It's unbelievable because, there was a post, and I'm sure everybody's seen it, but it was a post that it was a reminder that somebody had outside their business. Remember the small business, during this time, because they're the ones that have supported your Little League team, your youth hockey program, your school plays. They're the ones that have donated the money to the golf outings, and like they give back to the community. They are a part of the community, and then what do we do in return? We burn the store down, or we break the windows out, and we steal everything because. And I don't want to get into the political side of this because I it is what it whatever. The whole thing, the officer was in the wrong, 100%, 100%, and I hope he gets everything that's coming to him. But to then turn around and say that the way I'm going to avenge his wrongful death is to loot and steal, no. It's just an opportunity to be a thug, right? And I'm going to get hate mail for this. I apologize. I get it. It's not. You can't burn things down because you think that now is the opportunity. I don't know. It's never the opportunity to burn a building down. But anyway.
Yeah, it's just for me, I just have a hard time processing it. I just can't. I can't think about what's going through the mindset of these people that are doing these things. What is it? Is it personal gain? Is it what is it? What are you trying to get out of it? Is what because clearly it's not, it's not in memory of Mr. Floyd. It's not to remember him or to embody what he was about, because I'm sure he's probably telling us from heaven, what are we doing? We're being fools. We're being absolute fools. So it's one of those things that I just can't process. I just cannot. Every time I think about it, I'm trying to figure out an angle. Like, what are they doing? What's their end goal? I the wires start blowing up in my head, and I'm like, no, I can't think about it anymore. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So here's our escape. Let's dig into a great book, Good to Great. Let's get out of.
Yeah.
Let's get out of this and let's dive in. So, it's not clicking over. Sorry, give me 1 second. There we go. So obviously, this chapter section that we were going into was Confront the Brutal Facts, Yet Never Lose Faith. Again, I hate it. It's cliche to say, every part of this book is great. I was a big fan of last week's chapter. This one, I don't know. My quick opinion, and we'll dive into it here, is that I think this is a challenge for a lot of people to see the truth, right? And I think it kind of coincides a little bit. I don't want to make this about anything with what's going on now, right? Can we really say to ourselves that what we've done looting this building is what we should be, right? I mean, you gotta say it out loud and tell me if it's really right? I don't know. This chapter reminds me of that.
Yeah, and I think there's a good point to that. I mean, it is kind of poignant that this chapter did come about this week, and it is. I mean, you're so blinded. This chapter speaks a lot about being so blinded by your vision and your personal want and desire to be somewhere that sometimes you just need to stop and listen to the facts, because you may very well be going down a wrong path and you don't see it. You're completely blinded by something, whether, like I said, whether it's the need to be the top in the industry, or to make millions and millions of dollars. You're so blinded by that fact that you just can't listen to the people around you and gain the real-time data that you need to be to that point. But it's very similar. These people are out looting these buildings. They're so blinded by the hate and the rage they have for, whatever, police, government, that they just don't see what they're doing. They're not listening to the facts. They're not seeing the impacts that they're having on these businesses. You go in and you loot a business, and now that person, like I said, suffered from COVID-19. Now they decide, well, hell, I'm just not going to do business anymore. Now we just lost, a staple restaurant or a nice shop that you used to get all your little trinkets at. It's gone now. So it's very, very poignant to what's going on right now, and that's very, very good point.
And I mean, the 2 bullet points here. It is impossible to make good decisions without infusing the entire process with an honest confrontation of the brutal facts, right? And then it, stating the facts reveals the truth. So, whether it's the situation that we live in right now in this world, or in the United States, or it's this chapter hit home to me a couple of times in my business of saying, we took on a different sector at one point, and I just, I liked what it was, and I was blinded by it, right? I was blinded by, I'll be full on honest. I was blinded by the equipment I could get. I was blinded by the, what I thought was potential, income or money, but I got to play with this big equipment and all this happy stuff, but I never really sat there and said, this is 100%, this is the truth about what's going on, right? Which would have helped me save a little bit of money in the long run, and but I didn't confront it, right? I knew it was there, right? In the back of my mind, I was like, but I didn't actually confront that. You know what? No, we got to change direction. Like, just say it out loud and force yourself to have to hear it, to go, I'm being a little irrational about why I want to do this, right? This is for me, not for the betterment of, making money or the company or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I think as human beings, we hate to hear the things that we don't want to hear. We think about them all the time, but we hate to hear them out of somebody's mouth. You hate to hear that you failed. You hate to hear that you're going in the wrong direction. You hate to hear those things. You want to hear people telling you, yeah, you're doing good, keep going, or you got the right idea. You want to hear those things. You do. It's nature. It makes you feel good. When you hear the other things, you feel bad. You feel crappy. But you have to have that shave of honesty. You have to let that door be open, because if you do keep hearing the good and block out the bad, you're going to end up in the bad, whether you like it or not. You always have to keep your head on a swivel, per se. I always say keep your head on a swivel. Very true. You have to keep your head on a swivel.
100%. So that leads us here, and if you want to hit on these, did it change? I'm sorry, it probably didn't change on your side. But just slide 2, right? Charisma can be as much a liability as an asset. Strength of your leadership personality can deter people from bringing you the facts.
Yeah. That's a really good point, because you're put into a leadership role. Why? Because you're a leader. Because you lead people. You have characteristics that are, they make you a great leader, whatever it is. Charisma is a great thing, but charisma can also be very dangerous. If you live in that mindset that it's your way or the highway, you're going to be a very lonely person. There is a difference between being a strong leader and just being, a mogul or being, a dictator. There's a big difference between the two. And this says it, very clearly. You have to listen to everybody, all personalities, all aspects. People in your company that are below you, people outside of your company. You have to listen to all of these things. Otherwise, you will just self-implode. I mean, you will destroy yourself.
Well, and I'll tell you right now that this is something that I have experienced firsthand at a place of employment. That I started out with a I'll call it a boss, right? My leader, my mentor, my whatever. That's how I saw it, right? I saw it as a mentor. Not as a boss, not as manager, but mentor is always the term that I had used, because it wasn't about his way or nothing. It wasn't about that he has all the best ideas. we contributed, right? And he asked and he looked for the contribution and thoughts and ideas from the team to grow the team, right? And to grow in the right direction. And with great success. And that leadership was moved and new leadership came in. And that leadership was the same thing we just talked here, right? They thought they had charisma, but it was very much, this is the way we're going to go about it. My idea is the only way that's going to work was from outside of that market area, was never in that market area as a leader, had no idea, but this was the only way that we were going to do it. And it imploded 100% because it was one way or nothing. And that's a big deal. Like that, this really hits home of, a leader is there to develop the people around him to grow into his position, right? At the end of the day, if you're a leader, you want to develop everybody around you to take your spot. That's a true leader. And their success is automatically going to grow your success. But a true leader is developing the people around them to elevate and become better. And I think we talked about it in the last chapter of some of these people may become, their own business owners or leaders of different companies. But that shows the type of leadership that they came from, right? I get it's a double-edged sword, right? I get that, but I don't know. It's about the betterment of everybody, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think a good key indicator too to try to tell whether your leadership is going in the right way or the wrong way is, if your demands from your leadership from your top down are very unclear, they're very vague. Like, hey, we want to get $1 million in sales next year. That's our goal for next year. Well, how are we going to get there? I don't know. We're just going to get there. That's somebody that's being led blindly because they only see the end game of where they want to be. They cannot physically fathom the steps that it takes to get there. So that's just kind of something to watch out for. If your leadership is beating you down with, we got to get, QC under, QC callbacks under 1%. Well, what are we going to do to get there? I don't know. You just got to figure it out. Stuff like that. That's the stuff we want to try to avoid.
Yeah.
The second one, leadership does not begin with just a vision. It begins with getting people to confront the brutal facts and to act on the implications. I had a hard time with this one. I was back and forth, up and down, sideways with this one because I am very much a fan of having vision. I am not a fan of saying one thing and it being done. It's the end game. I believe your vision needs to be refined all the time, and I think that's what this is really getting at. Is okay, you don't start with the finish line. Start from the starting line and walk the journey together. And then I think that's very true. So I had a hard time reading this. So like I said, the leadership does not begin with just a vision. I think that word "just" is probably what brought it to acceptance with me was, it is not just about the vision. It's, it's about getting the facts regarding your vision and then honing it and refining it to make it work for your company or yourself or whatever you have going on.
Well, I think it's, there's a difference between the vision, right, and the real life of how you get to that desired outcome. And I think if all we did was focus on the vision, I think goes right back to what you were just saying of if you tell a salesperson you got to hit $1 million, but I don't know how you're going to get there. I figure it out. That's a vision. The vision is to get here. Yeah. We need to, what do we really actually need to do to get to that, right? And that's the brutal facts of, I want you to hit $1 million, but you got to keep, your budget's going to be $10,000 as a salesperson. Well, that's not going to happen, right? It's not feasible. So you got to step back, say it out loud, and go, all right, yeah, I can't. That's unreasonable expectations with little assistance from our end, whatever. So that's how I read it, and I thought how you explained the $1 million or the QC in the beginning kind of sums up that point for me at least. But motivating people is a waste of time. If you have the right people, they will be self-motivated. The trick is not to demotivate them. That one's a tough one for me to wrap my head around, right? Like I get it. The key is you don't just hire a person and hope that they get excited about what they're doing. I think everybody at some point in time at least needs a remotivate, right? Or a little extra, fire, right? So I think just as human beings, I don't know. Sometimes we can be like, ooh, piece of candy, right? But I get it. It goes back to getting the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. Personally, out of that whole statement, it's the last sentence that I have seen over and over again in my career is the demotivate, right? And it goes back up a couple of bullet points. It's the dictatorship style of leadership. It's my way or the highway. You hire good people because they're good. They know they can think for themselves, and when you don't allow people to think for themselves and contribute in their way and bring things to the table that you probably haven't thought of or wouldn't think of or whatever the case is, and you just confine them into your box that you see, that's going to demotivate people.
Yeah, that's very true. And I had a hard time with this sentence too, or this verbiage too. But after I read it, I understand. It is the MO of this book is to find the right people and get rid of the wrong people. But I think what he's saying here is if you are spending 90% of your time having to motivate everybody, then you got the wrong people. Yes, I agree. I think you probably spend more time demotivating people than you do motivating people, and you don't even realize it. So yeah, that is the trick. People by nature, it's like you said, we piece of candy, ooh, that is the way people work. So you have to keep throwing the dog bones, the tidbits out there, those little motivating pieces. I mean, I like to be motivated every day. It doesn't mean that I'm an unmotivated person. It's just, it gives me a nice little charge, just like coffee. But yeah, if you spend time micromanaging people, constantly criticizing people, not giving them the praise for getting the wins, you're going to demotivate them. You're going to burn them out, and they're going to leave you. So yes, that's very, very important.
Yeah. Oh, where did my mouse go? Here. And then create a climate of truth. Lead with questions, not answers. I don't know. That I really believe in this because I was led this way with the questions, not the answers. It goes back to my mentor, right? And that'll always my entire career in this industry will be focused around. It'll always lead back to that mentorship, right? And just the type of leader that person was has forever shaped how I go forward, how I lead, how I look at things. And it really was. I'll never forget one of the first week I was on board. We had to drive basically across the country. We started in Ohio and drove together all the way out to Washington, D.C., and then all the way back again. And we had known each other at that point for 3 days by the time we got in the car together. And we had fundamentally complete opposite end of the spectrum thoughts about permeable pavement and consolidation of open graded aggregate. So I'll get detailed here. We fought about it. Like, we were yelling at each other. And he's my boss. Like, he was like upper boss, right? Like,
sure,
that was the type of leader he was, is that it was an open debate. Whether he was ever going to agree with me or not, we debated it and said, oh, yeah, well, that's a good point. I can see that. Or, that to me is that one bullet point could be the only one on there. That is just the leadership mentality that I really, really dig into.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to ask those questions. You can't, nobody has all the answers in the world. Nobody does. I think the smartest people in the world still ask questions from time to time. It's how you learn. I mean, you never stop learning. So you have to constantly lead with questions to find out, in this scenario, if we're talking about vision and fact checking your company or you yourself leading with a question to try to find out that answer from other people from outside eyes is the best resource that you have at your fingertips. Everybody has that. So,
well, I mean,
good.
This is a long-term statement, right? I mean, it's the old adage of listen 90% of the time and speak 10% of the time. If you want to know what's going on, you got to close your mouth and open your ears, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's very true. I like the next one too. Engage in dialogue and debate, not coercion. I mean, that's exactly what you were just saying with your boss. You have to. I mean, a good, healthy debate is a good exercise. That's a very good exercise. It can get uncomfortable. I mean, it's a debate. You're going to have people that are passionate about one aspect or the other, and people are, voices could get elevated. You could walk out of. I've been in plenty of meetings where you walk out of it and you're like, God damn it, I hate that guy. I can't believe you would say that. He's so stupid. And then you stop and you think about it. It's like, God, that was actually a really good meeting because we didn't sugarcoat things. We didn't sway to one side because some person had a very powerful statement or I have a powerful statement. So, you're being honest. You're telling the truth, and your passion does come out, and that's good. But don't be afraid of it. Don't shy away from a good, healthy debate, whether it's in your marriage or in your company. A good, healthy debate is a strong exercise that you can gain a lot of information and a lot of knowledge from if you allow yourself to.
Yep, 100%. Conduct autopsies without blame. I think that again,
an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, right there's going to be failures, right? We're going to be wrong in those conversations and the debate back and forth with my mentor. There was going to be a wrong statement, whoever's side it was. But the willingness to say, what, we messed up, or this strategy failed, or we didn't go into this market correctly, or whatever, it's going to happen, right? And you're going to dig in to figure out what went wrong so that you can correct it next time, but it's never going to be valuable if the only thing that comes out of that meeting then, right, is that, Aaron, that was your fault. Yeah. Because now there's what's the correction? What are we going to do to fix it? If all I've said is, Aaron, it's your fault. There's no strategy or tactic to go back out and say, all right, here's where we messed up. We didn't get out to see our customers frequently enough, or whatever, right? All right, we need to make sure we get out and see them. And it is what it is, right? So it's confront the truth, but I'm not blaming you, right? We got to fix it. So, and in this case, is it that you just didn't know? Or is it just that maybe you're not the right person, right? So then now we're getting, it's the brutal truth here, right? We're talking about confronting the brutal facts. Is the person just not the right person? This is the wrong situation for them, the wrong position. Are they just not supposed to be on the bus? Or is it just a failure of understanding how we need to get there, right? But if all we do is blame, we never get it figured out, right? Because again, it goes back to just saying, we need $1 million. I don't know how you're going to do it, but we need $1 million.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was
very
my thought.
true. Well, but blame is so powerful. It's generally when something goes wrong, it's the first human thought that we have is, okay, if something went wrong, I got to be able to blame somebody for this. That's the first thought that always comes through a lot of people's minds, other than, or, versus, okay, maybe we should look at the problem and diagnose what happened. It's always like, whose fault was it? Because I'm gonna go off on that person, or something's gonna happen here. So that's oftentimes that's what we think about. We instantly go to blame, and it's bad because blame is such a, like I said, it's a powerful feeling, and it produces powerful conversations that are generally negative. And I don't want to say that they're not needed, because sometimes you do have to put blame on people. You do have to check them. But if you live in a culture of blame, you're going nowhere. If you're blaming everything on everybody, it's a bad way to be, and it's not positive. So I just say, take heed to blame, because blame is a very powerful emotion, and it can cause a lot of problems. Now, the last one there, build those red flag mechanisms that turn information into information that cannot be ignored. It's kind of an interesting statement. I think what it's really saying is, build those mechanisms in place so that you have quality meetings and you gather the information that you want to get. So understand when that information is very important, when it is something that's got to be carved in stone, if you will, in your company. So make sure that you have those indicators. I think it starts with your ears and shutting your mouth off and listening, but understand that certain meetings you're going to have are going to be powerful meetings. Certain conversations are going to be powerful conversations, and a lot of good is going to come from them. But make sure that you as a person can identify when those meetings are, when those conversations are, so that you can nurture those conversations and make them the information that you really are seeking out of it.
Sure. Well, I think too that the way I see it is it goes back to blame and things like that. So if we're talking about confronting the brutal truth, right, and digging into the facts, as a leader, right, we can be very vulnerable to people seeing a chink in our armor. So if the mechanism is that anything that happens or goes wrong or whatever automatically comes to us, where potentially we can hide that issue, right? If it's something that we truly believe in, we want something to work out, and it just isn't meant to work out, but we keep hiding it. I see this too as saying, hey, we're going to put a mechanism in place where this has to go through a certain channel so that everybody is aware that we had a failure, and now we're going to figure out how to fix that failure instead of it being swept under the rug or hidden, or that whole blame game, or worried about the blame game of, okay, that was my failure, but I don't want anybody to know about it. Let's get it out there, right? And if we have the right people and we've got the correct leadership mentality, and we're not blaming, we're fixing, then when that comes through and we have that issue and everybody's aware of it, we don't sit there and point fingers and say, Aaron, that was you. It's, all right, here was the issue. Now here's what we need to do to fix it as a group, right? So if this happens again, we automatically know we got to do this. Or here's what we need to do to prevent that from happening again. That's the other way I saw it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
So, I don't know. Any takeaways from this?
Well, I like that, create a climate of truth. I think that's a good key takeaway. I think essentially this chapter is really circling around the fact of don't be afraid to give yourself or your company a gut check every once in a while. Don't be so blinded by your passion that you're not seeing the truth of what's really happening. And creating that climate of truth it's like we've said before numerous times over. It's all about that culture, right? You're creating that culture that's open, that's honest, and you'll grow, you'll excel. There's no doubt about it. The companies that are in these books, they have a culture of excellence, and that's why they are so good. That's why they are the way that they are. They've done these things. They've worked. There's reasons why they're written in books, is because they want to help other people get to that point.
Well, and the only other thing I want to hit on is that the example in the book, if we were to go back, a chapter, and the little paper company from Wisconsin that sold off all its mills, right? The one thing that was their focus forever, that was their baby, and they just cut it and gut it and used all that money to go towards another direction. That's this, right? That's confronting some brutal facts that's just not working, even though it's how they were born, right? Like sometimes where we start out has to be looked at and say, you know what? No, if we're going to continue, or we're going to take that growth path and we're going to go from good to great, right, and make that next leap, this just isn't working. And we see, and I think this is something that for those of you that follow me on the Tuesday, Hardscape Nate Tuesday chats, what have you, is that we're gonna talk about what the time and era that we live in now, right? And things are changing, and we need to be aware of how we do business and how business is changing, because it is. Just COVID has done a lot, right? Unfortunately, or fortunately, I think that great innovation comes from times of need, right? And when we see the economy waver and dip and drop and scare everybody, which it does, and it did, and I think still is. Innovation comes from that, and new thinking or clearer thinking or refocusing has to come from that. And if we go through this, if we continue on and we just kind of bulldog it, right? Put our head down and just kind of push through just to push through because it's what we're used to, we're completely missing the bigger picture of, are we actually prepared for the new style of business? Because it is coming. If it's not already on the doorstep, right? I mean, I don't know. I look at that example of selling off the mills as, I don't know, contractors right now. They're everybody, for the most part, everybody you talk about is extremely busy. What I see is that everybody's extremely busy getting projects finished up from last fall's bids and quotes and maybe early year bids and quotes that were approved. But again, we live in a time where 1 in 4 people are unemployed, and with still a lot of uncertainty in the world at this point, that work isn't going to, and these are my beliefs, but we're going to see a major contraction in spending from the consumer late fall, right? I think our industry just lags behind a little bit. So we may be very busy right now, but we're not going to be very busy this fall, my vision. And we need to prepare on how the people that are still spending in the fall, how do we adjust our business to get their business? What do we need to focus on in preparing for that, in preparing for spring, because people are going to stop spending. They don't have the money, and they're going to refocus it, but we need to maintain our business. And so, again, it's just one of those things that, are we in all the right aspects of the industry? Are we diversified enough, or are we diversified too much, and we need to recenter what we do, right, and really focus on one thing that's been the money-making side, right? There's a lot of different things that go on there, but this kind of hits a bell when you think about selling off the mills and changing how we do business to meet times. We are truly there in a time, especially for our industry, to take a breath, look what's going on, make smart decisions, and be honest, right? Be honest about where we are, what we're doing. Is it right? I don't know. There's the Hardscape Nate philosophy for the week.
Good. I like it. Well, and I think it's very true too. I mean, there is still a ton of uncertainty out there. The only thing that we do know is that we'll never be the same, right? I mean, things have changed and they're going to continue to change. Our way of going to the grocery store is different. Everything is different now, and it's going to stay that way. So we have to read, analyze what's going on, and react. And that's all you can do. It's tough. It is. It's very tough, but you got to be smart, and you got to listen to what's going on outside around you.
Yep. 100%. So, all right. Well, with that, we're back at it again next week.
Yep.
Getting into the hedgehog concept, simplicity within the 3 circles. So, I like the hedgehog concept. It's something that I've always talked about coming from this book. Just about every place I've ever gone, we've discussed this portion of it. So this is going to be kind of a fun one. But yeah, so we're back at it next week. Same bat channel, same bat time, 11:30. And Aaron, as always, it's a pleasure. Stay safe. And for everybody out there watching, thank you very much for tuning in again. And we look forward to seeing you all again next week.
Sounds good. Have a great week, guys.
Take care. And we're off.